man, like I just got flashbacks, you know. So like I did a mixtape a couple years ago, a hip hop mixtape. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Woo, woo, woo,
so,
woo.
hear me out, right?
I can't wait. It's out. It is out.
Yeah, it came out Valentine's Day 2 years ago. Check out my
Yeah.
slash Master Zoms.
Master's Arms.
We always get you the link.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It will be on the page. I cannot wait to listen to it
yo,
again. I listen,
it's
we have
also
here a musician, a whole musician, a whole artist, a whole physicist, a whole researcher. I love it. I love it. I love
human,
it.
human at the end of it, right?
What's up, man?
What up, Tamia? What's up, everybody?
It's so good to see you. As always, I am. Let me tell you a little bit what I'm doing. I'm actually curating a 3-piece painting series, and it's about me loving physics again and through art. And I'm really trying to understand from that perspective of, okay, I'm painting this art, but like how is it being perceived? And then it got me thinking of like, what does it mean to actually be seen in physics and in art and in these like performance art spaces? And so I wanted to get your opinion and have a conversation with you about what do you think it means to be seen in physics and in art? So that is my first question. Do you think there's a difference between being seen in physics than being seen in performance or art? And really, what does being seen in physics mean to you, or what does being seen in art and performance spaces mean to you?
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts about this. First off, is that distinction between art and physics,
Mm-hmm.
to the point that you have to ask them in separate questions, right? So they're already a part of different sentences as you conceptualize them.
Right.
So I think I want to start with like, what do we mean by art? What do we mean by physics?
Mm,
In order for us to talk about those distinctions.
right.
Now we have definitions in the Google Dictionary. Scientists themselves have tried to define them.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what their definitions are, so I work off of my constructed model.
Mm-hmm.
So my understanding of art and physics, first physics is this understanding of the universe,
Mm-hmm.
the process of understanding the universe. And in understanding, there's documentation, and in the documentation, there's an expression towards an audience, towards a receiver, right, towards the
Mm-hmm.
viewer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that expression, to me, um, there's often art involved, right?
Right. Right.
So now, what is art, right? So to me, art is very focused on expression, um, and
Mm-hmm.
very centered on the experience of the expression.
Right.
Um, it's and there seems to be not necessarily a reproducible, um, quantifiable.
Big words
Uh,
there, sir.
you can't really package the art. You can't like in the to some extent you could teach basics. You know, you
Yeah.
could teach fundamentals of the process of
Right.
expression. Um, but there's sometimes that part where you can't teach it, right? You just kind
Mm-hmm.
of feel it, right?
Right.
And so in that sense, that's kind of where art takes over for me, is in the expression in a way that can't really be um, communicated, right? And so it kind of has to get felt.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling is part of that understanding the expression,
Right.
whatever was being expressed.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talk about art, I'm talking about the specific process of expression,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when I talk about physics, I'm talking about the process of understanding physics of the universe, and in that understanding comes the process of expression, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the expression is a component of the physics, right?
Right.
Of this process of understanding the universe.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's interesting as well is that uh, as you express in art, you have you have the feelings, right? You have an understanding of the feelings of the universe that are
Right.
provided by the universe that we experience in the universe.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that expression leads to an understanding of the universe,
Right.
right? So in an essence, it also is similar to the physics,
Mhm.
right? Which is what I defined as an understanding, the process of
Yeah.
understanding the
Yeah.
universe. Right? So it's interesting the way that we separate these, right?
Mhm.
Conceptually, but to me, there's this they're intertwined.
Yeah.
You can't
Same.
have one without the other.
Yep.
Um, so there's the expression and the performance of the expression, right? And we get at that performance aspect.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a different question, right? Well, I mean, no, because
That's okay. You can talk about it. We can
you
talk about
asked
it.
about performance and art, right? And so those are
Well, I guess like people usually call like performance art.
right.
It's like,
So
but it could also be, I think because I am painting, this is actually I mean, I guess the act of painting itself is performing the art. You know
right,
what I'm saying? But when it is like this still thing, it's just art. It's the visual art, the visual concept of it. And so, that's why I kind of use them interchangeably. But usually when we talk about performing art, we talk about music, we talk about uh, uh, theater, and we talk about dance. I'm like forgetting all of them, and it's like I've done all those things. But yeah. Hmm.
gotcha. And so you asked, is there a difference between being seen in physics and being seen in art?
Yeah.
Um,
Or do you think there's a difference?
so to some extent,
Hmm.
we have our social models, and people are going to see a difference, and they're going to drop you whether whether they're seeing the physics or whether they're seeing art, and we're going to drop whatever we see into these buckets.
Right.
So I guess I can't control the differences that people have in their mind, even though I just explain kind of like how I see them both being the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ultimately, is this idea of being seen.
Hmm.
And in being seen, you make things reality, right? To me, I think we like being seen because it makes us true. It makes us real. It makes it like we actually existed. I'm actually here with Tamia. You know,
Yes.
actually being like this is happening.
Hmm. Hmm.
Only interpret that this is happening because we see, because we interpret, we
Right.
collapse the wave function, we observe, right? Uh,
Hmm.
and so there's that the physical understanding, right?
Yeah.
Being seen.
Hmm.
Um,
Having that presence.
Right, having that presence, and I like being seen. Now, honestly, I enjoy being seen.
Hmm.
It's nice. It's really nice, and
What are the benefits?
it's like I like being seen because it makes me real. Like I'm
Hmm.
actually here. I'm actually
Hmm.
man. I love being here.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be here for a long, like eventually,
Right.
and
Right.
I just want to be the most that I can be. I
Yeah.
want to be at its totality. Every single part of me, I want it to be.
Right.
And I like the the music. I
Hmm.
like the art. Um,
Masters arms, y'all. Masters arms.
right, you start seeing master songs. You started coming up. And I got my playlist to check it. I got La Rosa, right? The
Oh,
Rosa.
nice.
I painted
That's
it.
beautiful, man. That's so
One
beautiful.
of my favorite parts is that little like the difference in the colors to the
Yeah.
shadow. But if you see here, there's like that mistake where I didn't fill it in.
Hmm.
That's my mistake.
That's.
That's mine, Brian's. Brian really, like, I actually did make that mistake, and you can't take that away from me. So
Hmm.
I mean, I just love being, whether it's as a mistake
Right.
or as a beautiful painting,
Hmm.
or
I listen. I have mistakes. I have mistakes too. This one.
uh
This
huh.
is this is not a part of the physics series, but it is a part of like just something that I did paint. Look at that
Ooh, look at that.
right there. But you
Mistake.
can't. It will be seen when I want to show her. When I put her back, perfect. She looks so good. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And what's interesting, these mistakes happen in art and they happen in physics.
all the time.
They're part of the
Yeah.
experience. It's part of
Hmm.
the process. Like we reformulate hypotheses after
Hmm.
things don't work. We go back at it again, and
Right.
art. You just keep doing, you keep practicing, and you correct
Mhm.
mistakes, trying to make it
Yeah.
better.
But I
You paint.
feel like, oh, sorry, go ahead. Oh, but I feel like oftentimes, like when we are seen in physics, it's like we are seen as geniuses that cannot make mistakes, oftentimes, you know? And I think art, for a lot of us, gives that ability to be like okay with making the mistakes and
Mhm.
not so flustered when we are in those spaces. Or maybe they're just preconceptions that we have allowed ourselves, or have like subconsciously allowed ourselves to accept because of the norms within the physics community, really, or what the norms are already pre-described by those who have occupied a lot of that space.
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, you know what's interesting? I have this idea that it's really all a performance. We talk about the political theater. We talk about performance identities.
right.
Um, we talk about um, people's character.
Hmm.
People's, uh, I mean, their personalities, right? Their character, right? There seems to be this metaphor of performance, and it really applies in physics. Physicists have internalized their character as
Yeah.
a physicist, right? It's this theater and it's like there's the whole theater as a whole, but
Right.
there's individual scenes. There's individual stages, right? And so here we're talking about the stage of physics.
Right.
Right? And when you walk into the stage of physics, people come in with certain expectations, right? Those mistakes are okay when you go to a live theater, right? Because people have that knowledge, they have that understanding. But when you go to a movie theater, those mistakes are a little bit different, because standards are different. The audience has a whole different set of beliefs and values, and those are all really, they kind of like inform and shape people's perspectives of whether somebody's a good actor or not, whether somebody is actually an actor. And or sometimes people think that you're just pretending, and at the end of the day, like, you don't want to get caught because that just ruins the illusion. And that's not good for the play, right? And so we worry about being found out that we're not good enough, that our role is that we're not playing this role well enough. And we get things like imposter phenomenon, right?
Yeah.
Stereotype threat, which are
Yeah.
constantly studied within physics education research.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that can really come out of this is that we reclaim those mistakes,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
As part of the art,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because just like those mistakes show up in our art, and it's part of the process, right?
Right. Right.
So
It's
in
so true.
so in the art of physics.
Yeah. I think for so long I like denied like sharing with others, just like that I'm struggling in a sense of like with physics, or even in art, like that I was, but I think I was able to, with art, I found, especially when I was struggling, there were still people pushing me and challenging me, and me accepting and being like, okay, I can't make the mistakes. And then I took really those lessons and I applied them to physics.
Mhm.
All right. Yeah.
So
Any more thoughts about that?
the question was being seen in physics, or
Yeah, being seen. I guess like also when I asked about being seen, I asked about like do others look at you in a way that's different when you tell them, you're a physicist, um or even like, I don't know. I guess yeah, that was really what my question.
yeah. Well, I mean, I
But
think the audience, not you audience, right? But like the audience in physics, they really have certain expectations
mhm.
of the role that you're supposed to play and how you're supposed to move, right? Um, it's it's. I mean, I played into it for a while in the sense of grades, and test scores. Um, I got the understanding, right? Like I felt like I knew what the universe was doing and how it moved. I got that down, and so when it came to like where, like where does the audience see us? I mean, they see us in the test scores, right? They see us in the CVs. Um, they see us in class, right? When we're gonna ask a question. Um, yeah, there's really all these different places where we're put on the spotlight, and to some extent, like we can perform towards these traditional ways, and just fill the role. Uh, but to another extent, we have to be ourselves, right, and take control of the character, right? Like there's certain people, certain actors who take a character and they just like turn it up a notch. You see it with people like the Joker, or Superman, people that have many remakes, right? Like there's sometimes some characters will do a fantastic job. People have their favorite Spider-Man, right? And like that's because of the way that those actors took ownership and they put themselves into the character, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the art of physics, right? Is that you got to do your physics in a different way, in the way that you ask the questions, right? Because the questions that we ask determine the answers that we get, right? And determines the way that we're going to see the universe. Um, so the act of asking a question, I think is super valuable, and putting ourselves into asking a question can lead physics to a whole different way, right? And that's how you start getting into people thinking about quantum models, the general relativity, special relativity. Uh, you got a Galilean motion, right? And all these different models and ways that,
Right.
right?
Stuff that goes above my head. It goes woof. But listen, like I still appreciate those people for displaying their physics and performing their physics. Like it's important.
hmm and you have to. I give it up to them, even though like there is inequity in the people that have been remembered, and whose names we
Right.
I'll give it to them because they saw the world in a beautiful way. And so did all the other people that didn't get called out, and it's the people that don't remember. Shout out to oh man, what's the name? Ivan, the the master of optics, IBN. I forgot his last name. God, I wish I could give him a shout out. Anyways, um, people saw the world in different ways based off of the way that they took ownership of the character of the physicist.
Mm-hmm.
And if we take ownership of our character when we perform physics, right, and when we display ourselves and we ask the questions and pursue the knowledge, use the methods in the ways that we want, um, people will be like, "Oh, that's not physics." People will definitely say that. Just like people will say, "Oh, that's not PER, physics education research," right?
Right.
Well, I mean, it is. It is. I'm just doing it my way. It's different. I'm taking inspiration from all these different places, getting ideas and mixing together and doing that art process.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
leading to brand new knowledge, right? People thought uh, Leibniz, when he was theorizing the quantized nature of reality, and he ended up committing suicide because people didn't believe him,
Wow.
right? They didn't believe the character, and then now here we are later, and we have I'm sorry, not yeah, I think it was Boltzmann. Sorry, Boltzmann. And so that's the Boltzmann constant, right? And now we have equations named after Boltzmann, right? And we're like, oh, you know what, he was right. But people didn't believe his character.
Mhm.
He was
Mhm.
doing it a whole different way,
Right.
It led to his death, and it's ugly the way that the audience, and the other characters in the set, treat these people who are behaving outside the traditional,
Yeah. The norms.
right? The traditional art, the traditional performances.
Wow.
Um, it sucks, right? And it happens on the stage of physics, and it happens in other stages as well
Right. Right.
because it's physics, right? We're talking
Yeah. All right. So I guess my next question is, this is like a riveting conversation. Um, and I'm going to presume that what you'll say is yes, but I'm still going to ask you the question. Is it important to have conversations around the intersection, or even me bringing up, like, is there a difference? Being like, it just is, you know? So is there is it important to have more conversations around the intersection of science and art, or generally because we're talking about physics and art, and
Yeah.
or art again, meaning performing art, visual arts, however you perform your physics.
Yeah, definitely. So there, it's absolutely necessary because some of the reasons that there's this distinction between them is because they're. I mean, we have differences, right? We have conceptualized differences, and I think one of them is the feeling of art. That's something that doesn't necessarily get explored in physics,
Mm.
right? We just predict, we model, we understand, we explain, but are we feeling it, right? Are we feeling the connection to the universe? Are we feeling the, the connection to this matter, to this energy, right? Are we feeling the beauty, the process? You know, those like in art, sometimes like there's times where man, like I just got flashbacks, you know. So like I did a mixtape a couple of years ago, a hip hop mixtape. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Woo 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 woo!
hear me out, right?
I can't wait. It's out. It is out.
Yeah, it came out Valentine's Day 2 years ago. Check out
Yeah.
my slash Master Zoms.
Master's Arms.
We always get you the link.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It will be on the page. I cannot wait to listen to it
yo,
again. I listen,
and
we
so
have here a musician, a whole musician, a whole artist, a whole physicist, a whole researcher. I love it. I love it. I love
human at the end of it, right? And so when I was
it.
I remember I was like rapping some of the songs or writing some of the songs, and there was so much feeling involved, you know, so much feeling. Like the reason why I started writing was because I had got my heart broken, and I was like, man, I'm not just gonna be sad and just being like sad for no reason. Like I want to at least make something out of this sadness, you know, and produce something. And so I started writing, and now came out my first like written piece. And then I started writing with it like daily or every other day, whatever. And then I had a collection. I started rapping it, but I tried to capture that feeling. I tried when I was expressing, when I was rapping, I was feeling it. You know, there was times where I was crying throughout the whole thing. Um, and I think that's so missing from physics. You know, like every now and then you'll hear those people, like you'll hear stories of people that just like got so excited and like they cry, you know, and like yeah, that's it. And so I got this deep connection, this deep feeling with through my understanding of physics. It was literally that similar feeling of me performing my music, you know, because I like sometimes you just hit it right, you know, like you just like, ooh, the way that landed, or like
Yeah.
the way that the shadow, oh
Right.
God, I was like, oh, you should see. I have another one that I give to a friend where it has some arrows, and there's like a shadow along the entire arrow. Ooh, boy, I killed it. I killed it. You know, I loved it. Uh, and that's the same feeling when I was like writing about the living nature of the universe and about the motion, and I was like, oh my God, it's alive. You know, we're alive.
Right.
And oh my God, it was beautiful. You know, so those are the arts perspectives that
Hmm.
get separated when we say arts or physics.
Right.
You know, like no, that's the part of the art of physics.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
that's the part of the physics of art. You know, is that we experience the feeling when we get it right. You know, when things make sense, when we understand, when we feel that connection with this universe, right? Whether it's through the performance of your body, you know, of your vocals, you know, of the colors, you know, or the theories or the equations, you know, or the like you just picture. I mean, to me, I live in my mind thinking about the temperatures, you know, the motion, the collisions, you know, like all those little concepts that I've like put in my head, but in my mind, it's all this it's a play, you know, and it's all moving, it's all like it's all acting, you know.
Hmm.
Very a little bit more on that is the expression of the physical knowledge, right? So that people understand it cannot be limited
Yeah.
to these symbols.
Yeah.
I think yeah, those symbols in a very great way capture very abstract concepts, um, but to some extent they're very inaccessible because not everybody knows how to read that language.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I
But
had to learn that a long time. Like the language of physics is math,
yeah,
you know? And if you can't understand that language, it's really hard to understand what is actually happening in the system, you know?
right. And math is another very abstract concept. So I
Yep.
want to focus specifically on the symbols,
Okay.
whereas the letters,
Mhm.
the Greek letters, the equal
Mhm.
signs, the plus signs, those symbols are the performance of physics. That's
Right.
how we perform physics, right?
Mhm.
Understanding that is a part of that character.
Right.
But there's audiences outside of this set that don't know how to interpret that.
Mhm.
You know, like they're just looking at this person moving and they're like, what the hell are they doing? You know, and they just don't, they just cannot, like, we need a different language. We need a different performance. We need a different genre, you know, to talk to different people. We need different motions, right? We need different outfits. We need different everything, you know, and like,
Yeah.
it comes down to the art of it, to the expression, right? And we can, like the way that you express Newton's cradle with black, you know, oh, beautiful, beautiful. You know,
Thank you.
you could go deep into that metaphor and like the conservation of momentum.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking when I was painting this. I was like, blackness is a concept, like we're conserving our blackness. Like it gets deep. It gets real deep.
Right?
Okay. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did a lot of research
right.
to try to understand my own understanding of how I was supposed to be delivering this. But I think at the end of the day too, like what I think is important about art is that it's also up for the audience to interpret as well. This is my own interpretation of how I'm seeing my blackness within physics. It's constant. It's conserved. The energy stays the same. It moves, it floats, it changes, over time. But something that it will always be part of me. It will always be constant. And so, but I also like wanted people to like be like, what does that mean to you? How are you connecting with it? And so I kind of wanted to also like leave that up for interpretation as well. So I appreciate you like connecting with that,
Yeah,
even if you're not black, you are a person of color, so you understand what it means
yeah,
in your own way.
yeah. No, it was very deep, right? And that leading up to the interpreter is something that I don't think we recognize in physics. So in physics education research, I bring in I
Yes.
come through very like interpretation is huge to me.
Yes.
I've been using the model of what's the name Paul Ricoeur's hermeneutic phenomenology.
Okay, don't know it, but you can explain.
The,
I
the,
don't
ess-
know.
the essence of this framework is that when somebody writes something, they had an intention, but when it's written and documented, it's separated from the author,
Mm,
right? And then it takes a life of its own, and then the person that interprets it doesn't have access to the intentions of the author, right? They only have access to what's being presented. But that interpretation is going to mix with the interpreter's world, right?
right.
I have a physicist mindset and I look at whatever was documented, what I'm going to see is going to be centered around that, right?
Right, right.
Something we interpret it, I tend to interpret it in English,
Mm,
right? But people in different worlds interpret things in their language,
yeah.
right? And there's like some people can't conceptualize property, like don't conceptualize property. Some people don't conceptualize time. So without those frameworks, interpretations are completely different,
Mhm.
right? And the way
Mhm.
that art is interpreted is different. And it's not just the art; it's writing. So this specific hermeneutics comes is specifically about text, but I extend it to art, to this word that's coming out of my mind. You know, like once it's out of my mouth, it's up to you. You know, and I
Yeah.
try to follow up and explain it, but that's like then you
But
have to
what?
interpret my explanation.
Yeah.
I don't have access to reality at the end of the day, which is why I'm 99% subjectivist. Back to that. You know, it is some of the things that we don't recognize in physics that is
Mhm.
very post-positivist, you know, and it's very deterministic. Well, to some extent, deterministic, right? There's probabilities that things are determined. Um, in art, we don't necessarily, like, it's not really about that determination. It's about that that
Right.
experiencing the interpretation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Experiencing the performance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, that I think that's missing in physics, which
Yeah.
is allowing those interpretations, but also putting oneself and expressing physics in very different ways, right? Whether it is through painting or music, at least traditional arts, right? But there's different ways of expressing art. So in my papers, I talk about emotions. You know, I talk about poems. Um, I talk about interpretation. I talk about metaphors.
Yeah.
Metaphors capture all these different feelings and they paint in your mind. And to me, that's all really a part of the art.
Right.
So to
Right.
me, that's I'm doing this in physics education research, which is a more social field, right? And it's a little bit easier to do arts in social fields,
Yeah.
even though they're so damn present within the traditional physics.
Mm-hmm. The
You know,
numbers, the statistics,
the
yeah.
graphs, the
Yep.
plots, there's
Mm-hmm.
ways
How
of
how is this like? I remember I remember one time going to a conference, right? And they're like, "So what were the numbers?" And I was like, "The numbers? I'm doing qualitative research." You know, I now understand, like, I'm not a quantitative. I guess I am a quantitative person. Like, sometimes I do care about the numbers, but a lot of the times I care about the qualitative work. I want to know the experiences. I want to know how people feel. Because that's how you connect. You can only connect to numbers, I feel, sometimes, to a certain extent.
yeah,
You know, they're like you said, they're symbols. They're everyone understands them differently, but sometimes people know how to empathize. Some people can pinpoint experiences that they may have and empathize with you. So
yeah. I think it's again, it's back to that language spoken by the audience,
right, right.
right? We need different people. There's already different people in the audience. It's not
Mm-hmm.
white men anymore. It's not just white men anymore, right? It's
Yeah.
a whole range of people that speak different languages and
Mm-hmm.
experience the set a whole different way, right? So
Right.
it's about time we start recognizing the different languages, the different
Mm-hmm.
movements, the different
It's about
performances.
time we be seen.
Mhm. Recognized. No, it's like, oh, those people are from this set. They're from the stage. They're the characters. I know that character, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Perfect. Wow. This was great. Oh, wow. You're just so talented, man. Talented, amazing, wonderful. Listen, you're doing great work. I can't wait to see what you're doing next. Wow. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate you being here. Um, to everyone out there, drink your water.
Stay hydrated. Stay moisturized.
Uh, what else? Meditate, pray, cry, laugh.
Breathe.
Mm, important.
Moving. Keep the motion.
Yeah. All right.